All right, hi, and welcome to another installment of Math Basics, Mr. Besh. Today we're going to use our prior knowledge and skill to translate questions pertaining to that of the circle graph. In some other circles, it's referred to also as the pie chart. Now, we're going to be using our practice sheet from class. It was practice 143, and there were two examples. The first 6 questions pertain to the first example, pizza industry sales, and this is a pie chart that had percentages on them. Frozen pizzas represented 10%, others represented 8%. Top 3 pizza chains represented 29%, and smaller chains and independents represented 53%. What I tell all my students all the time when you're doing these, if you have a circle graph that has percents, you want to make sure that you convert all your percents into decimals like I did. So 10% becomes 0.10, and 8% becomes 0.08. 29% 0.29, and last but not least 53% is 0.53. Remember, you make a percent a decimal by taking the percent divided by 100, or you can simply just move the decimal place 2 units to the left. Now, when we go through these questions, because that's what we're going to do, before we begin, I need you to remember this. Each of these questions we are going to either multiply or divide. There's a lot of common sense that goes with this section. For instance, when you get an answer, you need to read the question again and see if your answer can truly fit what they are asking you for. Because sometimes you may not be sure about a question, you may multiply, next thing you know, if you do the same question and you divide, one of the answers will make a little bit more sense than the other. That is a trial and error method that if you use only at the last case scenario. In the meantime, I'm going to walk you through these step by step, and I want you to pay attention because this example and the next example are a little bit different to one another. So, my first question says, what percent of the pizza industry sales were not from the top 3 pizza chains? Well, that's a subtraction problem. Every single circle graph, the percents need to add up to be 100 every time. Well, if the top 3 pizza chains are 29%, then that means, simply put, then all the other ones are 71 because 71 and 29 need to add up to be 100. Second question, if the total pizza industry sales were $27 billion, meaning everything, $27 billion, 100% of my circle graph, how much were from frozen pizzas? Well, frozen pizzas represent 10%. So to do a problem like this, to find a portion of the total, you take the total, 27 billion, and multiply it by the percent made into a decimal. So that was 0.10, the frozen pizza sales. And 27 times 0.10 gave us 2.7 billion as a value. That was the portion of how much it was for the frozen pizza sales alone. Number 3 is done exactly the same way. It says if the total pizza industry sales were 22 billion, notice they changed it from 27 in the second question, how much were from sales of the top 3 pizza chains? Well, the top 3 pizza chains are 29%. As a decimal, it's 0.29. So doing this problem exactly the same way as the last, but we got to use 22 first times 0.29, and this gives us $6.38 billion as a portion for those top 3 pizza chains. Now, both questions 2 and 3, they gave you a total value, and you had to find a portion. When you get to question number 4, it's different. Number 4 is different because they don't give you a total. They give you the portion. If they give you the portion question first, what you need to do is this. Instead of multiplying now, you divide. You take the sale portion that they give you, the 13.14 or the 13 1/4 billion, which we know as a decimal is 13.25, and you divide it by what it is as a percent, as a decimal. So 0.53 is my value. Now, notice the difference between 4 and 3 and 2. If they give you the portion first, you divide by the percent made into the decimal. But if they give us the total value first, you simply multiply by the percent made into a decimal. So now if 13.25 billion represented the sales of the smaller chains and independents, it would only make sense that the answer we would get in this problem would be much larger than that because now we're representing the total pizza industry completely. So we get to number 5, it says, if the combined frozen pizza and other sales were 5.4. So now in this question, we are adding 2 pieces together. The combined frozen pizzas and the other sales. Frozen pizzas and other sales add up to be 18%. What would the total pizza industry sales be? So we take the 5.4 that they're giving us, and just like question number 4, we divide it by those 2% added together as a decimal, which is 0.18, and that comes out to be $30 billion. Last but not least, if the frozen pizza sales were $3 billion, how much were the combined sales of the top 3 pizza chains, the smaller chains, and independents and others. That means what was the other value? So if the frozen pizza sales were $3 billion, to do this problem, what I end up doing is the following. I take my $3 billion and divide it by what it was as a decimal, 0.1. That gave us $30 billion as a total. $30 billion is a total. Now we knew $3 billion went to frozen pizza sales, so we subtract, and then now what we have is $27 billion for the other 3 combined. Hopefully this made some sense. If not, go back through this again. Look at how I did the steps. Remember, there are 2 ways. 2 ways in doing these problems. Number 1, they give us a total and we use the percent to find a portion. And the other thing was they give us the portion and we use the percent as a decimal to find the total. Okay? So that was the first example. That was the top portion. But sometimes they give us circle graphs like our next example where they don't give us percents. And we have to find our percents as a result. This is just like finding out your grade when you take a test. You know, how many points was the test worth? How many points did I earn? You take the points that you earned divided by the points that were in the test. Well, this is going to be the same way. Whenever they give you pieces, like they say, okay, in this pie chart, medal winners in the 1988 Winter Olympics. East Germany was 25, Soviet Union was 29, all others were 37, Netherlands were 7, Finland was 7, West Germany was 8, Austria was 10, and Switzerland was 15. Well, the first thing I do is I got to add all these guys up. Add every single one of these medals up. And when I add all these medals up, what I end up getting is 138 total medals. This is very key because now in question number 8, it says what percent of the medal winners were from the Soviet Union. Okay, now 29 were from the Soviet Union. So to do this, I take the number from the Soviet Union divided by 138, and that gives us a decimal, which is 0.2101. And then I approximated this to being 21.01%. Remember, if I have the decimal to make this a percent, I simply multiply it by 100. Notice something else that I did. I rounded my decimal value to the 100th spot. Well, actually, this came out to be the 10,000 spot. But the percent came out and be rounded to the 100th spot. Remember, decimals are our friends. We want to use them even when we're using our percents. So I rounded my decimal to the 100th spot as a percent, but in reality, I got to round it to the 10,000 spot when I'm doing my decimal. Number 9, exactly like number 8. What was the percent of medal winners from Switzerland? Well, there were 15 of them. So 15 divided by 138 came out to be 0.1087. Times that by 100, and that gave us 10.87%. Now, number 10, what percent of the medal winners were from all other nations? That was 37. 37 divided by 138 came out to be 0.2681, and that was 26.81%. Last but not least, number 11, how many more medal winners were from the Soviet Union than from Switzerland? Well, from the Soviet Union were 29, Switzerland was 15, so we could subtract and we can get 14 more medal winners. However, if we wanted to do percents, we could take the percents from before, 21.01 minus 10.87 will give us 10.14% more. Now look at what we did. Look at this example. If they don't give us percents, we need to find a total that's on the board. And once we find a total that's on the board, to find the percent of a missing piece, like in number 8, we take the number that's associated with that piece divided by the total. And that'll give us a decimal. And then all we have to do is take that decimal that we get times 100 to find the percent. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the circle graph. I hope you found this both helpful and informative.